Welcome to the Real News Network. I'm Paul Jay in Washington. We now continue our interview with Syed Saleem Shahzad. He's the author of the book Inside Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, Beyond Bin Laden and 9/11. He's also the Pakistan Bureau Chief for Asia Times Online. Thanks for joining us, Saleem.
Thank you.
Based partly on what you've written, it seems that the more pressure the U.S. puts on the Pakistan army to participate in the Afghan war and to deal with the Al-Qaeda Taliban elements, the more it splits the army. How serious a division is there?
There are several dimensions of this split. Number one, you have to appreciate that Pakistani military establishment supported the Taliban regime for the last for 5 years in the from the middle to late 90s and early 2000. So the thing is that they not only supported the Taliban regime, but they had also some agreements with the Taliban. And they had even the agreements with Al-Qaeda before 9/11.
And some of your articles have mentioned the possibilities of even a kind of mutiny. Is that possible now?
Well, it is quite possible. And if you remember, immediately after the 9/11, there were several attacks on then Chief of the Army Staff and the President, General Pervez Musharraf. And each of those attacks, there was a connection of Pakistani armed forces. In some cases, there were serving Pakistan Air Force officials were involved. So you just cannot set aside the element of a limited mutiny in Pakistan army. There would certainly be a backlash, because you have to appreciate this fact that Pakistan army has always been closely allied with the Islamist forces. They had agreements with the Taliban in the past when they were ruling Afghanistan. And they had even the agreements with Al-Qaeda when they were living in Afghanistan under the Taliban regime. They had even the agreement with Al-Qaeda when Lieutenant General Mahmoud, the ISI, visited Kandahar after 9/11, and he met with Osama bin Laden. And he verbally assured Osama bin Laden that Pakistan would not mount any operation against Al-Qaeda. They would not try to arrest them. And Al-Qaeda would not retaliate against Pakistan either. So under the same very agreement, Osama bin Laden and all the top Al-Qaeda members were allowed to sneak inside Pakistan. And the crackdown was mounted only when, in 2003, when Pakistani intelligence wrongly reported to General Pervez Musharraf that Al-Qaeda was behind the attack on his motorcade in 2003. As a reaction, then Musharraf ordered a crackdown against Al-Qaeda and all the jihadi organizations. And then, of course, Al-Qaeda also retaliated against the Pakistani military establishment and General Pervez Musharraf. So the thing is that the element of the element of a limited revolt or mutiny within the Pakistan army is there, and you just cannot, ignore that.
Now, how has the broader sections of Pakistani public opinion reacted to the killing of bin Laden and what's going on in terms of the controversy with the military and the ISI? I mean, what do I know there's no such thing as most Pakistanis, but in terms of the sort of majority of urban Pakistan public opinion, you could say, what do they think?
The majority population of urban Pakistanis are completely disillusioned with the Pakistani military establishment. They are least bothered about anti-Americanism. They are least bothered about Al-Qaedaism. They are least bothered about Pakistan's military role. But they do bother about 2-3 things. One is the economic meltdown in the whole country, the economic crisis in the country. They do bother about and they do concern about on the question of Pakistan's sovereignty, which is under siege from all sides, not only from the American side but also from the militant side. I mean, they are very much concerned that Pakistan has turned into a proxy battleground by all sorts of forces, not only from the Al-Qaeda side and the American side, but also Iranians and the Saudis are very active inside Pakistan, and they are paying money to different groups and different militant outfits to settle the score against each other. So you see, the thing is that they are completely disillusioned with the military, with everybody, and they are looking for some new leader who would take the country out of the crisis, of the economic crisis, of the political crisis, and the identity crisis, Pakistani identity crisis. That what is Pakistan is really up to? Is it a republic? Is it an Islamic republic? Is it a democratic state, or what? So they are actually they are completely disillusioned with the situation.
The Americans have positioned the death of bin Laden as a possible opening for negotiations with the Taliban, that now the Taliban can separate itself from Al-Qaeda, and there's some kind of a process that can now be negotiated. Do you think there's any merit to that argument?
I don't think so. They are dreaming, actually. Number one, they underestimated the, or you can say they have wrongly interpreted Taliban's sentiments. Taliban, whether they are different from Al-Qaeda or they have differences from Al-Qaeda on the strategy and on the maybe on the broader ideology, but they are very courteous people. And since Americans have assassinated Osama bin Laden, this is no occasion for the Taliban that they would ditch Al-Qaeda and they would switch to Americans. It is quite possible that after 5-6 years or after many years, they would behave differently. But on this particular occasion, I don't think that Taliban would behave in any friendly way towards Americans. I don't think so.
All right, thanks very much for joining us, Saleem.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on the Real News Network.